I'm Justin Cronin, author of The Passage. I'm very pleased to say what Harper Lee and To Kill a Mockingbird mean to me, and I don't know quite where to start. My book, for instance, contains a reference to Kill a Mockingbird in the very first paragraph. It's been always a very important book for me, and it is an important book. It was important to me as a teacher. I was a high school teacher. It was probably one of the first important novels I read. And it is something of a household project for me. My son's name, he's 7 years old, is Atticus, named for Atticus Finch. I wanted my son to grow up to be a righteous man, and so that is the name I gave him. In the second grade, my daughter played the role of Scout in a production of To Kill a Mockingbird at a theater in Houston, Texas, the Country Playhouse. It was the first real book she ever read. And then in fifth grade, she participated in a wax museum exhibit at her elementary school, Bunker Hill Elementary in Bunker Hill, Texas, and the character she chose to be was, of course, Harper Lee.
Hi, Mrs. Lee. I'm Karen Slaughter. Thank you so much for paving the way for me to have a career. It's because you wrote about the South in such a frank way and talked about story and character in such a Southern way that I am able to have a career. So thank you.
The character from To Kill a Mockingbird that I found most intriguing was Scout, but not for the reasons that people usually like Scout. I was most interested in Scout because she was the first character I ever read who was a lonely girl and who didn't have a good relationship with her parents, and who was really left to her own devices in a big way that was never going to be resolved. And I think that was an important thing to be introduced to as a young girl, that not every girl's life was going to be happy-go-lucky, but that didn't mean someone wasn't going to be able to be capable of growing up and learning and forming interesting relationships.
My name is M.L. Malcolm, and I'm the author of Heart of Lies. My relationship with To Kill a Mockingbird is kind of unique, I think. I went to a really crummy public high school, and I mean so crummy that our social studies teacher literally told us that Kennedy was still alive living on an island because there was no provision for a vegetable in a coma. In my senior year, I signed up to take a Southern literature class, and after a few days, when it became apparent to the teacher that I was the only person reading the books and the only person raising my hand, she asked me to drop the class. And To Kill a Mockingbird was supposed to be the second book that we read, so I, just out of spite, never read it. Well, I picked it up 6 months ago, and there is Scout going to school and having a teacher tell her that she shouldn't have learned how to read already, that her father was completely ruining her, and that she was getting a terrible education at home. And I just discovered a soul sister, because this someone who was also told by her teacher, "I'm sorry, you're just too smart to be in school this way." And so I just read the rest of the book, and I can understand why it's been such a classic. Every personality in there is so fabulously described.
Hi, I'm Nancy Pearl. I'm an author of the Book Lust books, recommended reading for all ages and interests and types of readers. And I have to say that I am a huge fan of To Kill a Mockingbird. I read it when I was in high school, and it was just a very, very meaningful book for me. I grew up in a very civil rights conscious left-wing family, and Atticus has always been a big hero. And when I teach at the library school at the University of Washington, and I talk to the students about why people like the books they like, and your book always comes up. People they just feel so attached to it, and really I just wanted to take this opportunity to thank you for that book, because just as it made a big difference in my life, I know it's made a huge difference in readers all over the world. So thank you very much.
My name's Rachel Schukert. I'm the author of Everything is Going to Be Great, which is coming out from Harper Perennial at the end of July. I believe it's on sale July 27th, actually. And my To Kill a Mockingbird story is Well, it's the first book I ever remember reading that felt like also like a grown-up book, that was like an adult book, you know, even though it's sort of, it really, I think that's such an amazing thing about it, is how it occupies that sort of line between childhood and adulthood, and I mean, and that's what it's all about. And I remember feeling like that was something I really wanted to try to break through to in my own work, of being able to straddle that kind of line where there's something very childlike about it, but it doesn't sentimentalize childhood.
To Kill a Mockingbird is one of my favorite books because sometimes children have stories that grown-ups should hear. And my favorite scene in the book is during the courtroom, and Scout and Jem and Dill are sitting up in what's called the colored balcony during the courtroom scene, and their father's just lost the case, and Reverend Sykes says to Scout, he says, "Miss Jean Louise, stand up, your father's passing." And she stands up and she looks around, and everyone in the balcony is standing with respect for her father, even though he lost, because he had tried his best to stand up for what was right.